Buckle up, everybody, because we are diving into some seriously choppy political waters today.
You could say that again.
Donald Trump, he's back in the headlines, and this time it's with a nomination that has, well, pretty much everyone scratching their heads.
Yeah. The name Matt Gaetz is ringing in everyone's ears right now, and not necessarily for the reasons he might want.
Exactly. Matt Gaetz for Attorney General. I mean, this is the same guy who's known for those fiery speeches and, let's be honest, some pretty serious legal battles.
We're going deep today, folks. Matt Gaetz, from those early days in Florida politics all the way to this, well, pretty shocking nomination and what it could mean for, the whole Department of Justice.
You've got a stack of news articles, court documents, even snippets from congressional hearings.
We're going to try to make sense of it all, so you don't have to.
So Matt Gaetz, he was born in Hollywood, Florida.
Hollywood, Florida, not California.
Right. And his dad, Don Gaetz, he was a big deal in Florida politics. President of the state Senate.
Politics runs in the family, you could say.
Yeah. And it seems like Matt Gaetz, he definitely inherited that political gene.
Except maybe with a little more, shall we say, flair. He did go to law school, but even before he finished, it was clear his eyes were on the political prize.
He actually won a seat in the Florida House of Representatives back in 2010, and he definitely made a splash right from the start.
Outspoken, that's one way to put it.
Controversial.
That too.
You probably remember that time he was one of just 2 representatives to vote against that revenge porn law.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd even tried to block it before.
His reason, get this, personal animosity.
Wow. Okay, so jump ahead to 2017. He gets elected to the U.S. House and becomes, like, Trump's right-hand man. I mean, this guy was out there defending Trump no matter what.
And that fierce loyalty to Trump, it really shaped his whole time in Congress. He took those hardline stances on issues like immigration, fought tooth and nail against the impeachment efforts.
Oh, and don't forget his views on things like climate change and the COVID-19 pandemic. Pretty unconventional, to say the least.
Yeah, you remember when he wore that gas mask on the House floor during a debate about COVID funding? I mean, was he genuinely worried?
Was it a stunt? Was it a way to mock people who were taking it seriously? I don't know.
It definitely got people talking, that's for sure. He knows how to grab the spotlight.
So we've got this picture of Matt Gaetz. Ambitious, not afraid to ruffle some feathers, and totally devoted to Trump.
But then things take a turn, right?
Yeah, starting around 2020, this wave of serious allegations and investigations just comes crashing down on him.
And we're not talking about some minor political slip-up here. We're talking child sex trafficking allegations, statutory rape, accusations of him paying a minor for sex, even transporting her across state lines.
That's some serious stuff.
There were also those ethics violations swirling around, claims of misusing campaign funds, accepting bribes, even, sharing those inappropriate images right there on the House floor.
It's a pretty long list.
Yeah.
And he also got hit with a DUI back in 2008, although that one was later dismissed.
Oh, and then there's that whole extortion plot. Gaetz claimed he and his family were being targeted.
Yeah, for a cool $25 million, right?
He even had his father wear a wire for the FBI.
Like something out of a movie.
It really is.
So, with all this going on, all these accusations, what did the Department of Justice do?
Well, in February 2023, despite everything, the DOJ chose not to file charges against Gaetz for that sex trafficking case.
So they said they didn't have enough to go on.
Pretty much. But there was that House Ethics Committee investigation, the one that got put on hold while the DOJ was doing its thing.
Right.
Well, that one got cranked back up in June of 2023.
And it's still going on.
It is, or, well, it was. Things got a little more complicated, you see, just a few days before Trump nominated Gaetz for Attorney General.
This is where it gets wild, right?
A woman came forward, testified to the House Ethics Committee, said she saw Gaetz with a minor.
Whoa.
There was supposed to be a report, laying it all out, expected any day now.
Yeah.
But with this nomination.
Yeah, it throws everything up in the air.
We've got this guy, Matt Gaetz. Controversial, to say the least, with some serious baggage, who might be running the very department that was investigating him.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But we're going to try.
So let's dig a little deeper into some of Gaetz's specific actions and statements. Maybe that'll give us a clue as to why Trump picked him.
And what kind of attorney general he might actually be. Remember that showdown he had with Merrick Garland?
Oh, yeah. During those congressional hearings, it was like watching a legal drama unfold in real time.
Gaetz really went after Garland, grilling him about the differences between state and federal cases. It was right after Trump's conviction in New York, on those 34 felony counts for falsifying business records.
It was almost like Garland had to explain the basics of how the Manhattan DA operates independently from the DOJ.
It did feel like a bit of a civics lesson, didn't it?
But Gaetz used it as a chance to, hint at this coordinated effort against Trump, like some kind of deep state conspiracy. He brought up how someone who used to be on the special counsel's team investigating Trump ended up working for the Manhattan DA.
Definitely trying to paint this picture of Trump as the victim, right?
And he didn't stop there. He brought Hunter Biden into the mix, too.
Oh, yeah, he went there. Asked Garland straight up if anyone at the DOJ had ever told President Biden to knock it off with Hunter. A very loaded question, if you ask me.
Implying some kind of cover-up or wrongdoing.
Exactly. And then there's the whole China angle that he kept hammering on, bringing up those alleged financial ties between the Biden family and Chinese businesses, pressing Garland about why the DOJ shut down the China initiative. That program, Trump started to counter Chinese influence.
He even compared the threat level from North Korea to China, which Garland was pretty quick to shut down.
But it gives you a sense of Gaetz's priorities,
Yeah.
right? The issues he really cares about and, the way he uses those, let's say, pointed questions.
He doesn't shy away from using innuendo and suggestion to make his point, even if there's no hard evidence.
That's one way to put it.
So this is just the tip of the iceberg, folks. We've got a lot more ground to cover on Matt Gaetz.
His rise to political prominence, those controversial stances he's known for, and, of course, those ongoing legal battles.
And we've only just begun to explore what his nomination as Attorney General could mean for the Department of Justice and, for the country.
Stick with us. Those hearings, there was another moment, a real heated exchange, when Gaetz really zeroed in on this whole revolving door thing.
You mean like between lobbying and political consulting and then landing a gig as a prosecutor at the DOJ?
Yeah, exactly. Like, can these folks really switch hats that easily?
He kept saying it was like having, the fox guarding the henhouse, especially when it came to the public integrity section, the part of the DOJ that deals with election crimes.
He argued that having people who used to work for special interest groups, lobbyists, could create a conflict of interest.
It did make you think.
He even asked Garland, point blank, if he'd support some kind of law, legislation to stop people from certain professions from working at the DOJ.
That was a pretty bold move.
Putting Garland right on the spot, forcing him to address that whole idea of bias in the system.
It does raise some important questions about fairness.
Mm.
I mean, everyone wants to believe our justice system is impartial, right?
Absolutely. But some people might say, having folks with different backgrounds, even those lobbyists, can actually bring valuable experience to the table.
It's tricky.
No easy answers. But those back and forths really highlighted how Gaetz focuses on those, what he calls systemic problems within the DOJ. He seems to genuinely believe the system is rigged against certain groups.
And he's not afraid to call people out.
Not at all. So, looking at all this, his record, that combative style, his unwavering loyalty to Trump, what can we expect if he actually becomes the top dog at the DOJ?
That's the question, isn't it?
If those hearings are any indication, a Gaetz-led DOJ, well, it would be aggressive, unpredictable, and potentially very, very political.
He might use that power to go after his enemies.
It's definitely on the table. He'd likely prioritize investigations into anyone he sees as a threat, especially those who he thinks have wronged Trump, and those allegations against his allies.
Poof, gone.
He might downplay them, dismiss them entirely. It's hard to say for sure. And don't forget about those ethics investigations that are still hanging over Gaetz's head.
Oh, right. Those are still a thing.
How would he handle those? Who knows? He could try to bury them or use his position to, discredit the people investigating him.
That's a lot of power for someone who's, well, let's just say he's a controversial figure.
And it's not just about investigations and who gets prosecuted. He could change the whole game when it comes to policy. We might see a huge shift toward things like immigration, election integrity, that whole China thing he's fixated on.
And knowing his stance on immigration, I bet we'd see a way more aggressive approach at the border.
For sure. And remember, he's not exactly a believer when it comes to climate change, so the DOJ might back off on environmental regulations and investigations.
It's like we're watching a political thriller unfold in real time. The guy who's being investigated might be in charge of the whole department.
It is kind of wild when you think about it. And, for folks who believe in an unbiased justice system, well, it's pretty unsettling. But it's important to remember this is all still hypothetical. We don't even know if the Senate will confirm him.
True, there's still that whole process to go through.
But the fact that Trump even nominated him,
That's a big deal.
it says a lot about where we are as a country right now. Those deep divisions, the lack of trust in our institutions, the rise of extremism on both sides.
Yeah, it feels like we're in uncharted territory.
And it makes us face some tough questions. How far will we go to stand by our political tribe even when there are those serious allegations? What does it say about us if someone like Gaetz is even being considered for this kind of job?
This deep dive has taken us through a lot. From Gaetz's Florida days to that meteoric rise in Congress, those legal battles, that fiery back and forth with Merrick Garland.
And of course, what his potential confirmation could mean for the DOJ, for the country as a whole. We've tried to get into his head, understand what makes him tick, how he sees the world.
But it's bigger than just one guy.
This story is about the choices we make as a society, the kind of leaders we're willing to accept.
So as we move into the final stretch of this deep dive, let's shift gears and really explore those big questions.
What would a Gaetz confirmation mean for the DOJ? What about public trust in our legal system? And what are the potential consequences for, our democracy?
We've covered a lot of ground here. Matt Gaetz, his background, his style, those controversies, those legal questions hanging over him, and what he might do if he actually becomes Attorney General.
But the big question is, would he even get there? Will the Senate confirm him?
Yeah, that's the elephant in the room, isn't it? Even before that woman testified about seeing him with a minor, some Republicans were having second thoughts about Gaetz.
It's not an easy vote for them.
I mean, we're just talking about any cabinet position here. The Attorney General, they're the top dog at the Department of Justice, upholding the law, making sure justice is served, maintaining public trust. It's a big deal.
It's a huge responsibility. And with Gaetz's history, those ongoing investigations, well, some people are going to say he's not the right person for the job.
Imagine those confirmation hearings. Senators grilling him about the allegations, the ethics probes, his, let's say, strong opinions.
It would be must-see TV. Political theater at its best.
And don't forget that House Ethics Committee report. It's still out there. If it comes out and it's bad, well, even some of his supporters might jump ship.
It's risky for Gaetz and it's risky for Trump. If Gaetz goes down, it could hurt Trump too.
So this whole thing, it's bigger than just Matt Gaetz, isn't it?
It is. It's about where we are as a country. All those divisions. People losing faith in institutions, extremism on both sides.
It feels like the ground is shifting under our feet.
And it forces us to ask, some really tough questions, like how far are we willing to go to defend our own side even when things look bad? What does it say about us if someone like Gaetz is even in the running for Attorney General?
This deep dive has been a wild ride. We started with Gaetz in Florida, that quick rise in Congress, the legal troubles that clash with Merrick Garland, and now this possibility that he could be in charge of the whole Justice Department.
We've tried to figure him out, understand his motivations, how he sees the world, what makes him tick.
But as we said, it's bigger than just one guy. It's about us, the choices we make, the leaders we pick, the future we're creating.
So as we wrap up, we want to leave you with this. Think about everything we've discussed. What are the implications of this nomination? What does it all mean for the future of our democracy?
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.